ask your child today what your family is actually about, not what sounds good, but what they genuinely say, what would their answer be? Most children can't answer that question. Not because they don't love their family, but because nobody has ever told them what their family stands for. And without that answer, something important is missing.
That question right there is, well, it's the entire foundation of the source material we are unpacking today.
Yeah.
And first off, welcome to the deep dive. I'm really glad you're joining us for this one, because our mission today is to explore a pretty massive psychological shift.
It really is massive.
Right. We are looking at how to move from running a household based on pure, exhausting day-to-day reaction to guiding one with a permanent internal compass.
I am so looking forward to this because the source doesn't just offer these abstract, utopian parenting philosophies.
Exactly. No theory without application.
Right. It's about the concrete mechanics, like creating a family identity that actually functions even when the parents are completely out of the picture.
Which is the dream, right?
Oh, absolutely. But to grasp why a family actually needs a coded value system, the text insists we first have to look honestly at what happens when a family doesn't have one. We have to look at the baseline.
The default state.
Yep.
And the source frames this default state as a real vulnerability. It actually asserts that a family without a value system is a house running on reaction.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Every single challenge, every sibling conflict, every scheduling issue gets navigated purely by whatever emotion is peaking in that specific room at that specific time.
If I had to put an analogy to it, living in a reactive household feels like driving a car down the highway, but the steering wheel is automatically handed to whoever happens to have the least emotional regulation in that exact moment.
That is such a good way to put it, yes.
Right. Like if the toddler is having a meltdown over the color of their cup, they have their foot on the gas. If a teenager is slammed with angst after school, they're just steering the entire family dynamic into a ditch.
What's fascinating here is that, frankly, if the parent comes home utterly depleted from a bad day at the office, that parental exhaustion just dictates the tone of the entire evening.
Yeah, everyone feels it. The whole house shifts.
Exactly. The source points out that in a reactive system, the environment is entirely conditional. It depends completely on the biological and emotional weather of the occupants. There's just no baseline.
So the car is just swerving all over the road based on whoever is the loudest or the most dysregulated.
Right.
That explains why the day-to-day of parenting often feels like mere survival. You're literally just managing collateral damage.
And the source contrasts that swerving car with the psychological structure of a family operating with a value system.
Okay.
When you establish this system, you aren't just slapping a nice motto on the wall. You are installing a shared language. You're basically building a set of beliefs designed specifically to outlast any individual's bad day.
To outlast a bad day. Because, you can't parent away a bad mood or a difficult developmental phase.
You really can't.
But the compass doesn't stop the storm from happening. It just tells everyone in the house which way is true north while the wind is blowing.
Yeah, the storm is completely inevitable. The real question the source asks is whether the family has an anchor when it hits.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if this compass is the goal, the natural question for you listening is how we actually build one.
Right, where do you even start?
Exactly. And the source argues that before we build it, we have to unlearn a fundamental assumption about discipline. We have to draw a hard, thick line between rules and values.
Yes.
And I have to admit, reading through the text, I felt some initial pushback here. Like, wait, to most people, a rule like no hitting your brother feels like it's enforcing the value of peace.
Well,
how does this text separate the two? Are we just playing semantics?
It really sounds like semantics on the surface, but the source digs into the psychological mechanisms at play, and they operate on completely different neurological levels. We tend to conflate rules and values because they both aim at modifying behavior. Right. But let's break down where the motivation actually originates. Rules dictate behavior from the outside in.
Okay.
A rule says you must do this or you must not do that. Therefore, rules require constant external enforcement.
Which places the burden of enforcement entirely on the parent.
Exactly. And what does that external enforcement actually generate in a child's brain? Just mere compliance.
Just following orders?
Yeah. The source cites psychological frameworks showing that heavily rule-based environments often just create better liars.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah, because when a child breaks a rule, they are simply violating a requirement placed upon them by an external authority. They weigh the risk of getting caught against the desire to do the prohibited thing.
Yeah.
It's just a risk assessment calculation.
It's completely transactional. It reminds me of a speed limit. I don't drive 55 miles an hour because I have a deeply held moral conviction about that specific speed.
Right, of course not.
I do it because I don't want a ticket. If I know there isn't a police officer for 20 miles, I'm going to speed.
That is the perfect parallel. If the only thing modifying the behavior is the presence of the enforcer, the behavior vanishes the second the enforcer leaves the room.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Values, however, declare something from the inside out. They state, we believe this, or this is who we are. Instead of demanding compliance, values construct identity.
That's a huge difference.
It is. Think about the profound psychological difference for a child. When a child acts against a family value, they aren't just breaking a law you laid down, they are acting against their own sense of self.
So instead of a risk assessment calculation, they experience cognitive dissonance.
They really do. In a rule-based system, a 6-year-old thinks, I hit my brother, I hope mom doesn't see.
Right, yeah.
But in a value-based system, that same 6-year-old thinks, I'm a person who protects my family, and I just hurt my brother. The discomfort doesn't come from the threat of a timeout.
It comes from the friction of their action not matching their identity. That is a massive paradigm shift. One creates temporary compliance, the other builds permanent character architecture.
Yes.
And the text enthusiastically points out that this ultimate payoff, this internal architecture, is what actually shapes their behavior when you aren't watching. Because you aren't going to be in the middle school hallway when a kid drops their books and the crowd laughs.
No, you definitely won't.
Or you aren't at the friend's house when they have to decide whether to participate in something they know is wrong.
The external enforcer is totally absent in those moments.
If they only have rules, the boundaries just vanish. But if they have an identity based on established family values, they carry that compass with them into the hallway.
Because the compass isn't something you hold over them. It's something they carry quietly inside themselves.
Because values create this powerful internal identity, the obvious practical step for you listening is figuring out how to actually build the system from scratch. And a major concern I had reading this was how to do it without the process feeling like a corporate board meeting.
Right, like handing out mission statements to a second grader.
Exactly. The text provides a really simple, actionable exercise. You wait for a calm moment when everyone is together and ask one specific question. What kind of family do we want to be? If someone watched how we lived for a week, what would we want them to see?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the genius of that specific phrasing is that it requires observation, not aspiration.
Right, that makes sense.
You aren't asking a child for a list of dictionary words they learned in school. The goal is to let everyone answer, write it down, and let it be a messy conversation.
But I can hear parents listening to this thinking, if I ask my kids that, they're going to say, we are a family that eats ice cream for dinner.
Oh, definitely. You will get those answers.
Does the text account for kids just giving silly answers like that?
It does. The source advises taking those answers and finding the underlying theme. If they say, we eat ice cream, you guide that towards, so we are a family that likes to celebrate and enjoy life.
Ah, so validating the contribution, but elevating the phrasing.
Exactly. And from that conversation, you find the 3 to 5 themes that emerge naturally. Any more than 5, and the brain just can't retain them.
3 to 5 themes. And the most crucial advice from the text on how to finalize them is to name them simply. They shouldn't sound profoundly philosophical. They must sound like your family.
The distinction between abstract nouns and active narratives is huge here.
Yes. The source gives fantastic concrete examples of this. Instead of a plaque on the wall that says loyalty, the value becomes, in this family, we show up for each other.
Much better.
Instead of the word integrity, it's we tell the truth, even when it's hard. Instead of resilience, the phrase is we try again after we fail.
Listen to the cadence of those two approaches.
Yeah.
Resilience requires translation. A 5-year-old has to convert that abstract noun into a concept and then into an action. But saying we try again after we fail skips the translation completely.
That's an active story.
Exactly. A child can instantly picture themselves inside of that narrative. It provides an immediate script for what to do next.
It's a script they can step into. But here is the friction point. Having active phrases written down is great, but how do they survive the day-to-day chaos of real family life?
Right. A piece of paper on the fridge changes nothing on its own.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The text outlines this crucial piece of advice, this parenting pivot. You use these phrases in real moments, not as rules to enforce, but as reminders of identity.
Let's analyze the practical examples the source provides. Let's take the classic sibling fight. One child is being incredibly unkind to the other.
Oh yeah, happens all the time.
The reactive rule-based response is for the parent to escalate their own volume. Stop being mean to your brother. Go to your room. You are enforcing a rule using authority.
Which usually just spikes the parent's cortisol and makes the child defensive.
Exactly. But instead of yelling, you say, in this family, we show up for each other. What does that look like right now?
Wait, does asking a calm question actually snap them out of a screaming match?
Yeah. The source explains the neurology behind why it works. When a parent yells, they trigger the child's amygdala, the fight or flight center.
Right.
But when you change the script and ask that question, you are acting as a pattern interrupt. To answer a question, the brain has to engage the prefrontal cortex, the center of logic and executive function.
So you're forcing their brain to switch gears.
Yes. You bypass their defensive state and force them to consult their own internal identity.
That makes a lot of sense. The text offers another scenario. Say a child wants to quit a difficult task like homework and screams, "I quit." A rule-based approach would be to say, you sit back down, you aren't allowed to quit.
Turning it into a power struggle.
But the value-based parent approaches the frustration and says, we try again after we fail. What would that look like here?
Notice how that completely changes the parenting dynamic. You are no longer acting as a police officer enforcing the law.
You're a guide.
Exactly. You are reminding them of who they already are, giving them the agency to choose the right action based on that identity.
And over time, the text argues that this builds immense self-trust. But what is the ultimate long-term emotional payoff of doing this hard work now, especially as these kids grow into their turbulent teenage years?
This raises an important question. What anchors a child when peers and social media relentlessly compete for their sense of self?
They are constantly being handed external values. You are what you wear, or you are your follower count.
The source promises a tangible defense against that. Kids with a clear family value system develop an identity that doesn't depend on external validation. When the world tells them who to be, they already know what they believe.
They have a compass running in the background, but the text doesn't let parents off the hook with just a nice theory. It brings in this striking final warning. It says, your child is not listening to your values, they are watching them.
It is a heavy realization. You can write your values in beautiful calligraphy on the fridge, but if your daily actions betray those phrases, the words become meaningless noise.
The text is brutally clear. What parents do in the hard moments, not the easy ones, is exactly what the children will carry long after they leave home, when you get cut off in traffic or when you burn dinner.
Right. Children watch the mechanics of how you navigate stress. If your value is, we try again after we fail, but they watch you lose your temper and quit when a project goes wrong.
Their brain logs that the value isn't real.
Exactly. But if they want you to take a deep breath, admit a mistake, and calmly try again, that value is permanently etched into their understanding of the world.
It's about embodying the compass, not just pointing at it. And if this is something you want to build in your family, we put together a free guide that walks you through exactly how to do it. The questions to ask, how to identify your core values, how to name them, and most importantly, how to live them daily so they become real. It's called, Does Your Family Have a Value System? And it's completely free. Find the download link in the description below. Because rules keep children in line today. Values shape who they become for the rest of their lives. We'll see you in the next one.
And before you go, just let this thought sit with you. If your child's future behavior is simply a mirror of your values in action today, what is one hard moment reaction you had this past week that you hope they don't copy? And how can you realign that reaction with the compass you want them to inherit? you.